against my enemies, yeah. You see, you wanted to save you, and then learn how to raise you. But I forget you're from the wilderness.
Hey yo, what's up everyone? It's your boy Rob.
It's your other boy, Eamonn.
And this is Monster Fuzz podcast. How you doing, Eamon?
I'm well. How are you?
Feeling good, Eamon. We're about to record 3 intros in a row, so I feel very good.
Yeah, yeah. Would I have known that before I came here? I just,
Well, sure.
you know, but sure, here we are now.
That's how it goes. 7 days of Samhain has begun. Spooky. Very scary. We're kicking it off with none other than the one, the only Miss Anna O Neill.
My blood.
Your blood finally. She's finally joining us.
Not blood from my blood. Blood from my father and my mother, I suppose. Great little chat with my sister. I had forgotten so many of the stories that she told.
Yeah, it was great.
You know?
She's about that life as well. Like she
is legit.
She's more about it than we are, I think, which is why I wanted her on.
Certainly
anyway.
for the ghosts, yeah.
Yeah.
If you start talking to her about Dogman, she'd be like, "Sorry, sorry, losers." I'd rather talk about the woman in grey, if you please.
Yeah, I also felt bad. She's that about it that when she mentioned a shaman, I literally just laughed because I in my head I thought of like
like of a fella in robes.
Yeah, I thought of some indigenous dude like motherfucking
doctor
Baron Samedi.
Yeah. She knows like inner town shamans.
Yeah, so I did that. So there's a bit about shamans. You want a bit of extra fucking shamans?
A lot of crystal stuff.
Crystals.
A lot of crystal discussion.
Ley lines,
crystals, geopathic stress. Are you stressed geopathically? I'm my mind's wrecked with geopathic stress.
It's just another way to get stressed, right? It's another thing to worry about.
It's just one more thing that
like
society can throw at
charged.
you. Yeah, we'll get to that. But if you don't feel great, neither do you.
So no, it's good. It was really good chat. It was a long time in the making. We've chatted about it before.
I'd say we will get her on at some point again, because I think she enjoyed it as well.
Good, yeah.
And then off the air, the two of them attacking me for being a high functioning alcoholic for about a half an hour, like some sort of fucking low effort intervention or something.
Yeah, it was quite funny.
You are. I'm like, I'm not like, I are. You do drink a lot. No. Fucking two wet rags.
And then I turned the lights on to make it all bright, and then everything like an interrogation. Yeah, it was a good crack. Before we get into it, especially on this 7 day episode, we'd appreciate it if anyone jumped over onto our Patreon and dropped a bit of support. It is always appreciated. It's a bit different this week, so the way the episodes are coming out is different. So Mini Fuzz is actually coming out on Monday next week. So anything that was supposed to be a Mini Fuzz will be on Monday's episode, including new patron sign-ups, all those shout-outs. That's on Monday. But yeah, if you want to head on over onto Patreon, we're recording an exclusive episode today, so that'll be 2 in the month of October, I believe. And there's a bunch of other stuff. You get access to the Discord, you can hang out and chat, you get your ad-free experience and your exclusives, all that jazz. Eamon, if they have any spooky stories, where do they send them to?
Monster Fuzz Podcast at gmail.com. Yeah, do send in your frightfully spooky stories. And think about it. Think about your own spooky stories. I forgot about many of my sister's spooky stories until she was telling them again here today. So maybe you have a friend, you're talking, you go, geez, Halloween, spooky times. Do you remember any stories? And like...
Yeah, Anna's like when she came into this room, she was like, that fucking shit has to come down.
To be fair, her head was resting in the middle of it for a while. Yeah. So,
she's like, that's gone.
It looked like the skull was wearing her as a mask.
Yeah. So without further ado, folks, here is the one, the only Anna O Neill.
Littler O'Neill.
Finally, ladies and gentlemen, it has happened. Anna, how's it going?
Yeah,
we've got
real O'Neill here today.
We've got your lovely sister Eamonn. After how many years have we said?
4 years.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
4 years of her avoiding the fact she's like, I'm never gonna do it.
Yeah, we kept saying we needed to get you on because you're probably into more ghosty, spooky stuff than Eamonn, I think.
Yeah, I definitely was.
Yeah.
And now recently I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
you grow up a little
bit.
Is
it like having had the kids? And because I mean, you were saying that after having Alana, it was like, I don't really like bloody massacres.
Yeah.
Like I used to.
Don't really want to bring anything in.
Yeah,
I get too into stuff and then like get freaked out.
Yeah, and
So like, yeah, best
because
to
and that
avoid.
link in with one of the stories is very
yeah.
Alana centric. That one I didn't know about that till recently. You don't know about this at all, really.
No, I'm sorry. I want to hear about that.
It's a
Did
spooky one.
Eamonn tell you about it?
I don't think so.
I briefly, because when we had Brother Richard on, he mentioned something like adjacent to that, and I said, "Oh, funnily enough, my niece." So he said that up until the age of about 6, he would say that you are both physical and kind of metaphysical. You're like a ghost, not a ghost, but some sort of a weird spiritual energy, which is why they say kids will like see a lot of things. And it was a similar story of basically a guy who had a connection to the house, who the little child was seeing, and then she was like maybe 4 or 5, and then when he said that, I was like, oh, yeah, my sisters are similar. And I said, my niece is just about to age out because she's like 6 soon.
Thank
so
God.
Yeah.
They say they either lose it at 6 or 7, or if it continues, that means they're going to be like a medium. Like they're going to be seeing, dead people.
I just have
I am okay with her not.
Yeah, I get that. I have images of Alana at like 16 and 7. Mother, I saw the man again with like a pull cord.
Or you'd be sitting there, she'd be like talking to someone beside you. You're like, oh, thank you.
There was a really weird one where he talks about a girl who she looked at a tennis ball and she wanted to know what was inside the tennis ball. So because she was like at this age where she was tapped into the spirit realm, she was able to throw it up, turn it inside out and catch it and just look at it for a while. And she was able to do that till she was 6, and then she just couldn't do it anymore. A bizarre story, but...
What's your take on mediums? You mentioned mediums there. A lot of Irish girls love mediums. My girlfriend loves mediums, and I'm like, have you been to them?
Yeah, like I've had a couple of experiences. I don't know if I've proper like been to one.
Right.
I don't know. I suppose I did get that person into my house.
Oh.
So she's a shaman.
Nice.
No, like
a proper
honestly,
shaman.
like she's a shaman, and I suppose she's kind of a medium.
All right.
But I didn't like get a reading. It was more just to be sure that the house was clear and okay, because we were kind of getting illnesses and stuff like that, and like I was getting blood tests and scans and everything was like fine on the medical side of things. And then I was kind of thinking, I've heard about geopathic stress, and I said it to one of my friends, and she said that she got this woman out to her house.
Right.
This woman picked up all kinds of stuff in the house they were renting. It was toxic. So she gave me her number, and I was booked in. It took about 2 months to get her because there's a 2-month waiting list for her. And so she came and she did all her, she has her proper like ceremonial. I don't even know how to explain it. Like, she was very professional.
Yeah.
And I full on believe her.
Right.
Because she didn't really want to even get into stuff with me. She was just going around doing her thing. You could see she had the dicing rods, and you could see when they were crossing, like, and stuff like that. And so she went around, did her own thing, cleared the energies and all this. So, like, from that sense, I feel like I didn't really go to a medium.
Yeah.
But I did have an interaction.
Yeah.
Because the reason I laugh is because I have a friend who has a family doctor that we call the shaman because he's always prescribing him supplements and stuff like that. But what is an Irish shaman? What is an Irish shaman?
Really interesting. And they have like a group. Like there's a group of them.
Right.
Big shaman.
And they train. Well, they have to train together.
Right.
They do like ceremonies. They do like, because it is kind of scientific in a way as well as spiritual.
Yeah.
She is dowsing for like where you'd have water lines and ley lines and geopathic stress and stuff, because there's so much illness that can't really be explained why it's there. So it's really interesting actually, because what she picked up was down here you have the big satellite.
Yeah.
So from my bedroom window I see that straight
yeah.
And so she said, like, the only part that was kind of a little bit toxic in our house was that, like, there was a mobile kind of mast on that satellite that was pointing kind of directly through where I sleep in my bed. And she was like, whoever sleeps on this side, like, you were getting completely radiated, basically.
I watched a documentary on that. and that kind of thing, and it freaked me the fuck out because it was when I lived really close to it. It was when I was in the apartment, like you were up in that apartment, and I was like, oh shit, I shouldn't have watched this.
I know, because I was thinking of you when she said it. I was like, if I fuck wrong, really fucked.
I'm getting cooked. No, but it is, you're right.
Was her word.
Oh, fried, yeah. It is like, I mean, that there's fun. It's funny you mention that because there's houses at the bottom of that big, so for our listeners that can't really visualize, basically a big communications tower right in the centre of town, and there's a row of houses like at the foot of it.
Yeah.
And like those houses were for sale for like years. They were like up when we were buying, and like they were up that whole time, and no one ever bought them because of that. Yeah. You're like,
well, I think it's one of those things like if you just see the way everyone's going, the bees are all fucked up because of this and that, and you kind of go, all right, well, if it's fucking the bees up, like there must be some sort of a low level. It's probably like having a cigarette or two a day, which I think is fine.
It's like Wi-Fi.
I think it really is actually good for you.
It's like Wi-Fi and all that. It's like the same kind of thing.
It has to have some sort of interaction.
Yeah, completely.
It makes sense. It's one of those things that if we found out tomorrow that it was doing something bad to you, everyone would probably be like, who cares, because the good of it outweighs the bad.
Yeah,
I don't think there's anything you can do.
No, that's not true.
No.
Like, I definitely think it's well worth finding someone like her to come in. Because she had great advice that I used, and then it kind of worked for me. So where she was saying like you're getting that kind of head-on radiation or whatever, she said anyone within a mile radius of these are affected. And I kind of have two, because I've got that one straight there, and then there's another one up by Peter's College.
Oh, all right, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of in the middle too, but she didn't really talk about that one. But say for me, she said like to put like a copper wire across your windowsill.
All right.
Because copper is supposed to be like protective, and like crystals and plants, and it's all about like there's stuff that will absorb that negative energy, and that will actually clear your space.
I found out with people are mad into the different rocks and stuff. I'm like I'm kind of on the fence about it. I'm like, do
you know what I think though? Even if there's nothing in it, what if there is?
Oh yeah, well true.
Do you know like what harm is it going to be if you
lost
have
a few rocks on your windows?
I think tourmaline is the black one. Like that's really good for kind of absorbing any of that EMF energy. Like you'd have loads or
I'm
here,
spooky out.
You know?
Like, keep it spooky.
That affecting your brainwaves.
We're gonna have to bring you down to the health food shop and get you a load of
crystals.
Black rock, Rob.
Oh my god, I have so many crystals.
Yeah.
You know, and black obsidian is supposed to like deflect negative energy.
What's quartz do? Quartz like the rose crystal.
Quartz is kind of like
that's like the most popular
and
crystal, right?
And you know, all that kind of stuff.
If you're feeling lonely and single, you get yourself a quartz crystal.
But you know what
Put
I
it down your
found out?
underpants.
You know what I found out recently though?
It's pretty good. You're like, there I have an escape of minerals in my undergarments. But I did hear rose quartz, like people would say if you were looking, if you're ready to receive love, right?
But it's also, it's just really positive. But what I heard recently, which I actually didn't realize at the time, was that whatever way you're feeling and you bring a crystal in, you're actually magnifying that feeling. So if you're feeling depressed and down and like you're bringing in a crystal to try and help you not feel depressed and down, it's going to magnify that. So like you have to kind of like clear
what
your
do you
head
do?
And just say like, okay, you know, you want to get that positive energy and kind of get into that positive mind frame, and then the crystals are going to multiply that, like is the whole
I get you. So and that creates then a bit of an energy field.
You have to shift your mindset. Like if it's negative, you're going to draw in the negative.
It is funny, I could just imagine someone with clinical depression like they need medication, surrounded by rocks, just like fucking it's getting so much worse. They can't understand why it's getting so bad. But no, I get because part of our family is spooky. Is that fair enough to say? We got some like, you know, maybe not me as much. Like our cousin is into Reiki, or auntie's into Reiki. Like they're like the witches. Yeah.
Okay.
And they see...
We're all a bit witchy.
That's
Yeah.
probably why we get on, because my dad's a witch, and so I grew up. We're talking about spooky energy.
You're like a warlock or something. Let's get the terms right.
A warlock, yeah, he's a warlock. But like, I grew up in like we're talking about energy in this house. I had like he had an altar in like the room that me and my brother moved into was the room that he practiced magic in. So it's like, I can't get much more spooky than that, right?
Yeah.
Really,
How did your mum... Was she just like, yeah, leave him off, or was she into
Leave
it
him
as
off.
well? Just leave him off.
Leave him off. Just like, you know, he
Like
would
his older to her.
Sure, what could you do? Like,
this podcast.
what could you do? Like,
Well, I'd say like for us and our family, like we say they're a little bit witchy, but it's more healing.
Yeah.
Like, they're kind of healers.
would they even a bit of Wicca maybe, or no?
I think
And then in like nature.
yeah, that kind of thing.
But there's
Yeah.
also a little bit like, there's obviously one of our cousins who's kind of, you know, done some of the Reiki courses and his massage and things like that, and like just general
She's
spookiness.
like a master of Reiki.
Yeah, a master Reiki artist or whatever they call it. But then all of the rest of us, or some of the rest of us, have little spooky vibes, and that goes off to the other side of the family as well, where, and it possibly is not actually the family thing. It's like, as Brother Richard had said, most people have ghost stories. You just kind of forget them, or you. But we have, I think we all have some weird stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's probably like how we even got to doing the podcast, was we both had, like, myself and Eamon, probably just like we were into the weirder stuff, but you were always into it too. I remember like going into the family house and you might be watching some fucking spooky shit on the TV or whatever back in the day.
Chair, watching Ghost Hunter. Like in the
I
dark,
remember
with just the like, laptop screen like in my face.
But the three of us, I remember eating popcorn, watching It.
Yeah,
the old like one. We're just sitting in my room eating
Love
popcorn.
it.
Yeah, so like be watching spooky movies all the time.
So I suppose that's a good kind of segue into spooky stories. Eamon's kind of alluded to them in the past. What is your ghost story or your spooky story?
Well, I suppose like I started off saying about getting that shaman into the house. To kind of check on things, you know. Obviously, like if people are getting sick and the medical route isn't really working, it's like, let's just try something else. And so she had picked up a few things, like, you know, as I said, she went around the house on her own. We could see her blessing all the mirrors. She had her whole concoction of like sage, like waving sage around. She had holy water, and she had the whole lot going around, and saying like her prayers in Irish as well, like. And so after the end of it, she said, okay, you know, it's good that your ley lines are kind of on your door borders, so they're not actually going through any beds and everything like that. So that's okay. I've kind of shifted some of these, and I was like, okay, cool. And then she said, oh, and I got rid of the man in your daughter's bedroom.
Oh, and
I was like,
had Alana?
What?
Yeah, but didn't Alana? Because I remember she used to have nightmares about Granddad, and we were like, "Why is?" And we were like, "Which Granddad?" It doesn't didn't make sense.
She lived in our bed. You know, she lived in our bed, and she'd wake up in the middle of the night with nightmares. She'd come in really upset, and she was only like 2 years old at that stage, 2 and 3. And we were kind of saying, like, what's going on? And she was like, Granddad was chasing me. And I used to give out to my dad. I was like, Dad, what are you doing? You're obviously like playing games with her and probably like scaring her a little bit.
Well, no, they had a whole routine because they were trying to like, because my parents would have taken care of Alana a good bit.
Yeah.
Back when I was living home during COVID, so I would have been around the kid.
Yeah.
But they had a whole thing to try to like help her transition from the potty to the toilet, where my dad was the toilet monster. The toilet monster's coming in. This was to train her.
And then she like leg it to the toilet. Oh my God, close the door.
And so then that was, and maybe in retrospect, that actually wasn't how you're meant to train the children to, you know.
Alana's on a podcast in 20 years time talking about how she's afraid of bathrooms.
Yeah, but more like psychological trauma paranormal.
But it is a mad thing that, like, because I remember we were saying that was the only connection we could make. But she would like you know, Alana loves getting chased. Like she likes that experience
Excitement.
of like she even just turned around to me the other day and she's like, "Hey, Eamon, chase me!" And then she's like, "Okay, now I chase you." You know, just like a good, fun-loving kid. Yeah. But I remember thinking, I was like, "Geez," I was like, because both of your kids are mad about our dad.
Mad about
because I
Granddad.
think it's because he has a weird head.
No, he's so good with the
He
kids.
is very good with
He's
the kids,
He's a
yeah.
big kid himself. He's so good with the kids. They
Which is
love
great
him.
to see, because
Yeah.
with us he was like,
Oh, he was a
fuck off.
nightmare. He hated us.
Yeah, and you saw him like in his older years.
He was alright with me, like, but with who in our lives, like,
with
well,
us, he was like, when we were
When
kids
I reached the
especially.
age of 16, he was like, okay,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
a grown up
Mellowed
now.
out a
I can
bit.
treat you like a grown up.
Yeah.
But like under 16, it was like nightmare.
some people, I think, it's funny though that now he is, but I think some people are naturally just not kid people. And like, even if they're parents, they're like, they mightn't necessarily have that super parental thing.
I think that
He's
for
a kid
him.
person, but he was also a secondary school teacher.
Yeah,
So he was dealing with kids.
There's only so much
And
kids you
coming
can
home
manage.
to kids.
Yeah,
I
true.
think part of it is that like he marries my mum, say, when they're 28 or whatever, right? I come around about a year after, but he always wanted to be a writer, and he was very good at writing, and he was known for writing, and he was just like, oh yeah, that's what I'll do, but obviously needed the full-time income. This back in the 80s when everyone was poor, so he was the only one working. They just bought a house, like we didn't have much money. I wasn't even around, so him and my mum didn't have much money. But I think as time went on, he realized like, like I'm not, like, I just have to work.
Yeah.
And now I have
Reality.
this kid, and now there's stress and there's pressure, and I don't think he was equipped at that time
Most
for what he
weren't.
was taking on. No, because the way you went was like you got married, you
My
had
dad
kids.
wasn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was like, what
I
the
think
fuck is this, like?
most dads back then were just like walking into dark
Zagged up.
rooms, you know.
It's like, oh, what the
And
fuck?
the poor Irish women, when you think back only 30, 40 years ago, poor Irish women were probably just, can you imagine, like, they would leave every husband nowadays if they had to deal with the
totally,
same shit,
totally
you know?
Like
different.
now it's not illegal to get divorced.
Well,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
You couldn't
Separate,
even
or,
leave him, yeah.
You couldn't even live with anybody before getting married.
I was
No.
born in
You know.
1984, so Ma would have had to wait till I was 10.
Yeah.
And by
Yeah.
then she's like, sure, what the fuck? She's like,
May as well just,
how it could
stay.
be worse, who knows?
In for a penny, in for a pound.
I'd say the fact that we all went to see Jurassic Park saved the marriage. She saw that and she was like, few more, I'd say there's about 3 more sequels. Stick around for the kids in those sequels.
We've totally gone off topic.
Yeah, that's all.
This is how this
I'll blame him
podcast
this
works.
time,
Sorry.
though.
It's like, you mentioned dad and then you have to go into the whole
Yeah,
psychological trauma.
Irish ladies.
So, old man ghost. Old man sighting,
So
granddad
this is
sighting.
so this is the thing. So she said, I got rid of the man. I was like, what are you talking about? She was like, it's nothing bad, but he is grief stricken. And so that it has negative energy on its own, like of itself, because obviously it's not very positive, like, but he's not a bad person. It's just he's grieving. And so she said that he actually traveled down on like a ley line and saw like Alana as a baby or whatever, and then just reminded him of his, I think. So just wanted to like stick around.
Oh, right, okay.
So I don't know how long he was there for. She said she didn't get into any conversation with him. She just wanted him to be gone because he didn't belong to the land. He didn't belong to us. He literally traveled from somewhere else. And she said like it was the strangest thing. He was holding on to this like thread. It was like a woolen thread, and she said you could see like all the threads off this wool, and it was like just pointing like down that way through Alana's bed up wherever he's from. And I kind of think maybe that was an anchor or something.
Yeah.
Maybe
Like-
he could come and go.
Like that ley line, he was following that, and the thread
I
was sort of,
wonder.
and he just happened to bump into her
Yeah,
and reminded her.
I
So the
wonder.
ley lines are almost a transport, like a
Because
metro
it's like a
for ghouls.
water line. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they say spirits can travel on water.
Well, when you think back to all the
Through
folklore, the
water.
Viking thing, that the oarman who brings you across the river, there's all a lot of water metaphors. And oftentimes there's some semblance of truth or something in that. Maybe.
Well,
It's a
they say
possibility.
it's like a conduit.
A conduit to the other side.
Spooky
A
conduit.
spooky conduit.
What rock is a spooky rock if you were to get one and keep it in your house?
Sticker rock.
Well, I have a lot of like tourmaline now and everything just to
Oh,
get
yeah.
rid of that negative energy.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, like I think we need to get her back again. I think things can kind of come and go,
I'd say so.
Yeah.
and I think you might often need to clear space. But yeah.
Do you have any idea of who that may have been yourself? Do you have any ideas? Because sometimes one of the only things that I've seen or I've ever had kind of untoward, and again I've told it a million times on a podcast, but was basically a shallow person, and it didn't make sense at the time when I seen it, because it was when I was with an ex-girlfriend. I seen it was basically a silhouette that looked like her. It was about the same shape and everything, and I didn't find out until about a year or two later.
Mimic or something.
Well, she had would have been a sister, but it was a miscarriage, and it was about a year between the two of them, and I was like, oh fuck, is there something to do with that? That was just the only thing I could draw from it.
Some of that shit as well, right?
And I was like, it's spooky. And
I don't know if I said it on the podcast.
Yeah, if you don't want to, don't get into anything mad spooky.
Me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't get into anything you don't want.
Yeah,
But
that's really interesting.
so I thought that too. I was like, oh, is that maybe something? Because if you're to believe in, say, a spirit, and then something like that, a spirit is, I suppose, lost in a way, then maybe that's what it is. Like there's something kind of watching them, or something around them, or something.
Maybe about the potential. This, going to send people who are pro-life and pro-choice mad. So, but potentially, we talk about echoes of the past, a ghost that sends an echo of what life was like into the future, right? But also you have maybe the potential, like you think about even not the feat itself or anything, but all the possibilities that exist in your mind, I guess, when you're about to have a kid, and you would know more than we would. But you do wonder, could that potentially almost create a kind of an energy, thing? Just something. And from having Brother Richard on recently, now my mind is awash with all, because the stuff he's told us about entities that never existed that have agency, not necessarily in a situation like that, but this particular one that he talked about was created from a negative energy or a negative experience potentially, but it was a dark presence that actually had some kind of
He was about to buy the robes last week after listening to Brother Richard.
I was like, how long does it take? Who are the lads who can give it up after a year if they don't like it?
Can you get married? Can you be married?
I think if you're already married, they have to let you off. If you're already married, they're like, you found the loophole, Brother O'Neill. And you just immediately get it. You don't have to do any study. They're like,
amazing.
Brother O'Neill totally gets laid. Like,
oh my God.
Sorry. I forgot you were my sister there for a second. Brother O'Neill, he's married. There we go. We don't know much more than that.
We have speaking of Eamonn, we have a weird Italian spooky Eamonn apparition. Do we?
Yeah.
Ciao bella. Ciao bella.
Yeah, I'll never forget that, because that was actually really freaky. So like me and Eamonn and mum and dad, like we had a family holiday in Sorrento. I would have been about 17?
I think I was 16? just turned 19 or 20 or something like that. I probably one of the last family holidays coming to the last of those from me,
and it
I
was
guess.
Before the big Lawton one.
The big one in Italy the year after or something,
So we were in Sorrento, and me and Eamonn were sharing this room, but it was like a massive suite. Remember, it had a sitting room and everything, and we had like the two single beds, and there was like a little locker between our beds or whatever. And it was. I don't even know how old the hotel was. It seemed kind of new, but it had loads of like marble flooring and gold cherubs, and Italy with their whole
dramatic,
like antique gold antique furniture and frames and everything, like real old school, but really like 4 or 5 star. It was
it was lovely looking.
And one night I woke up and it was kind of bright from the moon, I think, and I just saw what I thought was Eamonn like sitting beside my bed, and he was like staring at me, but he was like staring through me. Does that make sense? He's like staring into space, but he was looking in my direction, and I was looking at him thinking he was sleepwalking, and I was like, Eamonn, Eamonn, what are you doing? And I heard Eamonn's voice come from the other side of the room. So I just had my eyes on this guy, and I was saying, Eamonn, where are you? And like, I just had a panic. Do you remember? I was like, Eamonn, where are you?
Like, hey, where are you? And I was like, what? And
yeah,
I was like,
I actually was shouting, Eamonn, where are you?
Yeah.
And I knew if I took my eyes or if I blinked, this guy would disappear. I stared at him. And I was shouting for Eamonn, turn on the light. Like, I was freaking out. But I knew if I take my eyes off him, he'll disappear. Yeah. And as soon as Eamonn turned the light on, he just disappeared. Just vanished.
And did it look like Eamonn?
It looked like Eamonn, but definitely like an older version. Like when you were at that age, you didn't have a beard. This guy had like a beard, like a stubbly beard and stuff. And
well, that was like 20 years ago, so technically
you now.
Older man now. Like,
yeah, but definitely like, you know, as I said, a kind of Van Gogh looking, like, you know, kind of grey with the red.
Eamonn has a bit of a Van Gogh head on him, right?
Yeah, that's what we were saying.
I'm a Van Gogh mind. A few years it's
That's
funny.
weird.
It's funny you say that though, because I remember that night. I remember just like the panic you get when someone.
Yeah, because you were fast asleep and I was freaking. I go, Eamonn!
Turn on the light, and I was like, oh Jesus! You know, like,
the place is on fire.
I'm
Run!
so glad I took those 2 martial arts classes. But it's funny because I had a very similar thing like that when I was 7. I woke up and I saw who I thought was one of our parents' friends, and they were kind of kneeling or squatting beside my bed. And I was like, what are you doing here? Mum and Dad are gone to bed. And I was like, I think they're in the sitting room. And I just like, or sorry, they're gone. I said, I think they're in the sitting room or they're gone to bed. I remember this. And I went back asleep. And I woke back up again. The same person was still there. And I was just like, what are you doing, like? And then I went back to sleep and I woke up again. And then the last one I was like, oh, they're gone now. And I remember telling Dad the next day.
That is so weird.
Yeah, but there's a name for it, hypnagogia, and it's basically like a hallucination. Because I've had mad ones though. I had one where there was a little girl running past the bed. I had another one where I woke up and there was like, it was like an angelic statue that was beside my bed that was pregnant.
Yeah. And how old were you for that?
For those ones, I think I was on hash. So I
okay, you were in 7.
Well, I'm not saying that when I was 7, I definitely wasn't smoking blame. But, I think those ones were like when I was 19, 20, something like that. Yeah. Like maybe year 1, year 2 college.
You lived in that haunted house in Selbridge.
Oh, in Selbridge, yeah, that place was pretty creepy with his cousin.
Yeah.
Well, we had the legitimate scary thing there that I still can't explain. Was those a windowsill. So we had like, it was a long kitchen. Mm-hmm. So the way that the house was kind of, you went in the door and then there was stairs going up, kind of like yours and mine house. The living room was to the right. There was a second kind of room behind it, which is kind of like the way my house is now and yours with the kitchen. But then there was the actual kitchen cooking facilities, which was like it was like a thin kind of a room. And so you'd have the kind of dining area and then the living room to the front. So anyway, we were all there, acting the maggot or whatever. But one of the lads was in that kind of long living room, or that long kitchen. And he just went, lads, come here for a second. And we all went out. And so the windowsill, if you remember the old timber windowsills where you had like the little metal knob and you would just put it, lay it on that, you know? So you can't really get them anymore. No. You wouldn't get any houses with them anymore. So basically the arm was beside where you would secure it. And it's a timber window. It's not windy outside. And the window is very slowly and deliberately just moving out like that and then moving back in, but in a way that doesn't make sense in terms of the wind that's around. So we were all like, whoa. We looked at it for a while and everyone was kind of like, geez, this is bizarre. And then that was the only real tangible thing. The other ones was the lampshade was made out of glass. I got up to do something and it fell down immediately after, like it would have cracked me in the back of the head badly. There was the fire at one point. We just noticed that it seemed as if it said I in had been carved in the weird, like, which was kind of, again, someone could have done that. There was a little weird, like it was almost like one of those obscured frosted glass between the sitting room and the hall. And you would always just think that you were seeing shadows walking by. And now that could have been, again, to be skeptical, it's frosted glass, so it sort of obscures the images.
Did you, Anna? Did you ever have anything in the family home, shall we say, rather than not dox the house location or anything? Did you ever have anything spooky happen in that house?
Yeah, like there's
this was
times where I was absolutely terrified.
Yeah.
Yeah, like because where we grew up, like it's very close to what was the workhouse. So that was like a famine walk.
Mm-hmm.
Before our houses were there, it was an orchard, and we're definitely on like the famine trail, right? If the workhouse was there, and as well like 1798 rebellion and all that, like, and there's so much history, but like, it was. Yeah, there were times when it was really spooky, but it was probably when I was a teenager and getting really into like watching all the reality ghost TV shows and stuff. I was getting really into it, and then a few spooky things happened, and I just immediately got like the holy water and was like, no, I don't want it, I don't want it.
I remember down at the road, one of our friends used every weekend when his parents were gone, he'd have a party.
Yeah, was that after weekend. I saw the others?
Yeah, I remember. And we were all down there, and you came down. And you rang me. This is like the old brick phone.
Oh, yeah.
She rang me. She's like, oh, I'm freaking out. So we brought you down and you hung out for a while. And then, like...
Yeah, that was so scary.
Yeah. But you had said, like, something
so
happened
scary.
with the TV or something?
Yeah, like, the channels were changing. But, like, at the same... Like, as a teenager, like, looking back now, I'm in my, like, 30s. And I'm like, as a teenager, you kind of, like... What was real, what wasn't real? And because I just watched the others in the cinema,
right.
And I came home to an empty house.
And you were like 14.
It was pretty scary. Right? Yeah, it's a pretty scary movie.
Yeah, but I mean, also for the channels to change.
Yeah, no, I came in and I was like, that was some fucked up movie. Like that was mad because we weren't expecting the twist. Like it was mad. But yeah, because I think I was kind of inviting some things in probably at that stage. I was getting really into like ghosts and stuff, and then I just started feeling things and like feeling something there. And yeah, definitely I saw like the channels were just changing, like one after the other, and that's when I freaked.
Do you remember? Because that
I
is
rang,
the moment.
and I rang you. I was like, "Where the hell are you?"
I was like, "I'm only 6 doors down."
Yeah, like I was in tears.
But I remember you came down for like a couple hours, and then obviously we all had to get out.
Yeah.
I think one of the lads actually brought you back up.
They did. Yeah. It was Graham.
No, I think it
brought me down, did he?
One of the other guys. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, I remember you kind of calmed down.
Yeah, but I was in tears, like I was panicked.
But you didn't tell me that the channels were changing, so I thought, I was like, she just saw a scary movie and she got the heebie-jeebies. But then when you were like, the channels, I was like, oh, that's real.
Yeah, but like
paranormal activity in the house.
They say like about
we went to go see that together as well.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's terrifying. But you know what they say about girls? Like when they're kind of teenagers and stuff, and maybe I made something happen with my mind because I was so into it and being like, oh my god, this is terrifying, and then things started happening around me and you're like, is there something to that? Like
if Stephen King wrote Annie instead of Carrie and she was alone and then the channels changed, that's all I've got. It's not as interesting. But I know, I guess there must be so much energy as a girl turns into a woman.
But like
versus when a boy turns into a man.
There's plenty of energy with that too, but it's the
wrong
kind of energy.
Like it doesn't. But you know the way like consequences to it. You know.
Have you had that extreme fear?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we've given each other that
paralyzing fear.
Yeah.
You know that's energy. Like.
Yeah, and it could be that because your fear was such, you were creating telepathically changing.
Yeah, I could have been.
You're like, RD1,
we literally had like 3 to 4 TV channels.
Yeah, that was the thing. There wasn't. That's where the ghost fucked up. Like there wasn't enough channels.
That's scary.
Back then there wasn't even.
Yeah, but you know what was freaky was that it was. When the channels were changing, it went to static. It was like changing through static, like in
99. Yeah.
What's that movie?
Was it Poltergeist? Yeah. Had this,
yeah.
And then the steak turned into maggots and shit, didn't it?
Oh yeah. Well, at least that's enough. But I was out of there before anything else happened. Like I rang you in tears.
I remember you ringing me and freaking
panicked.
out. But again, like you just assume Because like when I was 16, you were 14. But when you're 16, you feel like you're sort of hundreds of years older than a 14-year-old, even though obviously you're not. But for your life experience, you're actually quite a bit older.
Yeah.
But I remember, I just assumed I actually saw a spooky movie. So like I remember you came down and we were at that age where like we could kind of all. It wasn't weird that you would hang out with us for a bit.
Yeah.
We were just at that point where it was normal, and then. Yeah, then just with the channels changing and everything, that part was like really spooky.
No, there are definitely a few times I just felt absolute paralyzing fear like, in my bedroom. And
some of the stuff I know, just you had another one about a field and like things you could see in the trees or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you were trying to describe it to me and you showed me a video on YouTube where the same thing kind of happens.
Really? I don't even remember that.
It's some war. Like, I don't want to say Confederate soldiers, but
so
some soldiers.
I thought, yes. So I kind of, I relate that to the 1918, right? 1916 Rising, because where my friend had her house and her field was in across the bag in the country. And so there's loads of, like, 2 or 3 fields straight down to the River Slaney. Yeah. And right opposite is the railway line. Mm-hmm. So that's like Galore.
Yeah.
Is the railway line, and she had like a shell house and stuff that was down by the shore because her house that they lived in was 100 years old. It was a cottage when they owned it. It's family owned. Mm-hmm. And then in front of that was a gigantic mansion, one of those English mansions, which would have been like older. So they had their own like stables, they had their own like church and graveyard, and they had this little shell house with little boats and everything. And when you're down at the shell house on the shore, you could actually see like there were Coca-Cola caps from like early 1900s and stuff, like really old. And they called it the shell house because it was like concrete, but it had loads of shells.
That was like an old school way to decorate.
It must have been a boathouse or something. Like a boathouse. Freaky. So freaky.
Was it?
So freaky, yeah. And the barns were terrifying. Like, we used to hang out in the barns all the time because they did it upstairs where you'd have a pool table and everything, and we could hang out there. And like in the dark, you just hear stuff. It was so freaky. Like, and her dad has so many ghost stories of fitting out the barns because him and his brother were working on the barns to like fit them out because he had a farm, like a cow farm and everything. So they were getting everything to be used again, you know, over the years. And he said, like, there were times where they just had to leave it because, like, tools were being thrown across the room and stuff like that. Like, really terrifying
but you were saying, I remember stuff like being in the car and, like...
Oh, freaky
the
stuff.
locks going up and down.
No,
and,
it was actually freaky stuff. Like, yeah, and, like, the one time that really stands out was when...
That's all right.
We can like
so
and so.
Let's talk about the shell house, and I was like, I really want to see it. Like, you told me so much about it. I really want to see it. So she was like, well, I'm not going in there. Like, I'll show you, but you're going in there, and I'm not going in there with you. So I was like, yeah, I'd like to do it. So anyway, yeah, she kind of showed me where it was, and she did actually come in with me so we could have a little look around and stuff. And then just got freaky vibes because you can kind of hear twigs breaking. Leaves and like things are kind of happening. So you get under like the barbed wire, and it's this big open field, and there's one tree in the middle, and you look across, and there's the river, and there's the railway station, or not the station, the railway line. And like we were kind of looking for ages, and we could swear we saw. It looked like a woman in a white dress over on the other side.
Oh, that's creepy.
And there was a man beside her with a top hat who was kind of like kneeling down beside her. And we were standing there for ages looking at this, going like, is this real? Or I wish we had binoculars. Because we could just make it out, but then you don't know if it's a pole or if it's like what. Our imaginations are going nuts anyway. So we got kind of freaked out, and then we just were like, okay, let's just go back to the house. So we started walking back up to the other. You have to go through the other field before you get to the other field, before you get to the house. And on that second field, we turned back, and the woman in white was like standing in the middle of the water.
Oh Lord!
Yeah.
And we like freaked. We freaked so much. This was in the middle of the day. We ran straight into the kitchen. Her mom and her friend were in there, and we were like panicking. She was like, oh my god, like look out the window. Is there someone coming? Is there someone coming? And they were like, no, there's nobody here. Like calm down. Like tell us what's going on. We're like, someone's after us. We think that there's a ghost or something coming. And the friend said, that person just wanted to tell you something. And we were like, fuck that. I do not want to hear whatever she wants to tell me. Like, but it was really weird. But the friend totally was like, they're coming towards you. They showed you themselves because they have unfinished business, and they just wanted to like tell you or talk to someone. We were like, no, done. We're done with all this.
Are you familiar with that the Sophie Toussaint de Plantier murder?
Yes. The Ian Bailey
and
thing.
I saw that in the documentary about the warning.
The white lady in white or whatever. Yeah,
you survived though, so that's
I know.
You've been doing it for like 23 years or whatever. Like
no, but I have to say, like all through my years, so this is going back 25 years. How old am I? I don't know.
We're all getting on now, unfortunately. Yeah, it's getting that way over 20 years ago. You can reference, you're like, oh, that was 20 years ago, cool.
So it's 23 years maybe. Yeah. But I still remember it. And like over the years, I've kind of just had, like, because I don't know these people anymore. It's been like over 20 years since I left school and everything, so I have no idea. But I've always wanted to know the history. So sometimes I kind of look back in going like, something must have happened here. Like, and so, like across the river where that railway track is, like there was a big train crash there because the IRA bombed the train. Yeah, and there was police officers that got killed, and there's all the way on those railway tracks of the Galore side or whatever. Like even at Ferrycarrig Bridge that was blown up. Like there's so much history.
So you'd wonder then, is it like, are they two dignitaries or like two well-to-do people on the train that were targeted maybe?
Well, or is it two people that were supposed to be married and then they couldn't get married? Because, or one of them was on the train. But like in that spot, like right across the river in that spot, like was where, I just feel like there's some connection there.
I find water spooky anyway.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I can't swim.
You can't swim,
Me too.
That's why bottoms are just shit yourself in the water going, oh no.
Doing the toe and no, not today, Satan.
It's like water spooky for you guys without ghosts. Just in and of itself.
Maybe we're already having that panic.
I think so, like we're invoking the spirits off the water. But it is like, it's, I don't know about you, but like those swamps and stuff, like you ever see in America where it's all that kind of almost stagnant. Or bogs here in Ireland, you're like, they're so fucking creepy.
Or what's terrifying is no end to it, or like not knowing how deep it goes down. Like I just find that terrifying.
And that whole, you've seen the image where something grabs your foot and just like keeps you going down and down.
And like the bog bodies are a real thing.
Yes.
And so you're going up, like, because I've plenty of times I've been up in Laois doing the bog walk up there. It's just the thing people at least do, but it's like you could like literally look in and at any time you wouldn't be surprised if you've seen something totally spooky there. Like it's really like, and there's just nothing. It's funny because they're like, their nature is ours really, but to the eye they just look like there's nothing happening on them. It's like pure dead. I don't know if you remember in Lord of the Rings. Did you would watch them murder all the dead bodies?
I think we went through 3 of them just recently.
Did you? Yeah. So the dead marshes with all the bodies in it and stuff. It does remind you of that. Like it's super creepy. What got you into ghosty stuff then? Because like I said, you were into it probably more than me and Eamonn. Was it just something you were naturally drawn to? Like,
oh my god, yeah! From a very early age, I remember being in primary school. I must have been in senior infants, and we had a little ghost crew going around.
Really?
It must have been maybe the Ghostbusters came out or something. And we thought we were like the Ghostbusters, Yeah, well, very early.
You always loved Hocus Pocus and stuff.
I always loved ghost stories. Like always loved ghost stories.
I attribute it to
Dad.
For me it was when Mom used to live with us. Mom is like my mother's mother.
Okay,
so
cool.
When they moved back from Canada originally, they lived with us for a while. I think Mom was pregnant with you. And Mom, I had a big yellow monster book, which isn't the one that you got. It's a different one, right? And I used to sit in her lap and she'd read to me about monsters and ghosts and stuff like that. And it was great crack until like then, you know, later on you'd freak out like, you know, whatever. But I think because I have such a nice, comfortable memory of that. So even now I listen to ghost stories going to sleep on a podcast or something.
It's soothing.
It's like a comforting thing. And it's like obviously when you're watching a horror movie, it's not necessarily comforting, but I think it's based on that. And then maybe because of that, you might have inherited that book in some way. I don't know.
I always remember around Christmas, like at kind of the start of December, Dad used to read us the Christmas Carol. I think he read like a chapter every night or something.
He read a book as well.
And it was full of ghost stories.
So he was properly into it too then.
So like from a very early age, we used to sit in his lap and he used to read this Christmas book on the run up to Christmas, and it'd be like just a chapter a night. It was very spooky.
Yeah, it was a Christmas. I can't remember the name. It's quite famous, I think, but it's not like Dickens.
It's not the Christmas Carol.
No, but they used to have a thing about cooking toast in the fire, and I was like, "Are you able to do that?" And he was like, "Yeah." And then I remember one night we like toasted bread, cooking toast. We toasted bread in the fire, and then when I ate it, I was like, "Oh, this is rotten." Just tasted like old 80s charcoal and stuff. But. Yeah, so I wonder, I don't fully remember. I just remember the thing that really stands out to me in that book. There was a part where there was a fork in the road and there was something about going down the wrong way, and it was a spooky thing. But yeah, I think we were always...
It's definitely
always reading ghost stories.
It's like, same as when I was a kid, like, I spent probably, I think it was like when I was like, I think maybe 3 or 4 up until I was 5 or 6, I lived in the South Main Street, like in those old tall buildings. Yes. And the one that I was actually in particular lived in used to be a jailhouse at one point in time, actually.
Oh my God, that's so scary. Is that down by the Dunmere?
Yeah. And so it's actually right across from the Premier. So to be in there, do you know, it's actually where Bugler Noise is really done up now.
Yes.
That was our shop. So
you were right across from the pauper's graveyard. No?
Yeah. Because that was behind Sarah Jane.
Yeah, very close.
So spooky.
So we would have had like a load of kind of, even as a kid, I just remember like some of my earliest memories are just walking around that house on my own as like a toddler, and like,
oh my God,
there was like a kind of a walkway, so sort of like that landing outside, but it had like, I think, nearly full length windows all along the hall. So like all the moonlight and stuff used to come in, and I have this vivid memory of being a kid just walking down this hall shitting myself, going like, what the fuck. But my brother, he probably would have been the edgy or youngest now. He was like my mom always says that like he frightened the shit out of her like when he was a kid, because he'd be seeing things and you're trying to comfort him as an adult, but you're also going, oh shit, like, because he used to be like sitting in the bed going like, he'd be in his cot or whatever looking up at the ceiling going, there's spiders everywhere and all this stuff, and my mom was like, where? And like, so then when we were talking to Brother Richard, that episode will actually be after this one chronologically, I believe. So for our listeners, you have that to look forward to. He was kind of explaining the liminal kind of thing with your kids, children, like, and so you do wonder, you know, what are they seeing? I used to have a bunch of really mad night terrors and recurring nightmares around that age too, like. Yeah. So there you go. So we probably got spooked out of it.
Yeah, because user like
there's
that.
So much history.
Place.
There's so much history down there.
Yeah.
And like that's close. There's like a Viking graveyard up in St. Peter, or what's the Peter Square?
And
stuff like that. Like so many battles occurred.
In Ireland, you're constantly walking on bones. You can't go anywhere in this country without like scores of people. Probably most countries, I
think with Ireland though, it's so small, and our population centres were there's so much history in them. I mean, even in the Bullring, sure, the Cromwell's massacre where he massacred
because the water used to come up that far.
So I didn't know, but the old walls in Wexford are actually where the water came up to. So all the walls around Wexford town is where the water came up to, and then they reclaimed it over the years and went out further. Like, but no, it is nuts. Did you find then? So as a parent now, do you find that it's the empathy stops you from getting into the spooky stuff, or is it like a thing where?
Like I have to say, like, it was kind of a few years before I had landed, because, like, I used to watch all the reality TV shows and get really into it and loved it and stuff, and I always thought, like, oh, I'd love to go on a ghost hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we did go on a ghost hunt,
Duncannon and stuff.
I didn't like it.
No.
I didn't like it. I just kind of felt like, what are we doing? Like, people are doing, like, table tipping and all this, and some people are really getting into it, and stuff was kind of happening around us, and I remember, like, I got a big shout in my ear going, stop.
Oh.
And I said to the guy in charge, I was like, did you yell stop? Someone yelled stop. But nobody else heard that. And I kind of feel like you're antagonizing all these spirits going around being like, show yourself to people, do that, like, do this, like Zach Bagans, come on, demon, and then something shows up.
Making me drink more whiskey.
Like, I don't agree with any of that anymore.
No.
I don't agree with it at all, and I just think these were people in the past, and there's, like, you kind of need to respect that.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Respect boundaries, and then they'll respect your boundaries.
Yeah, I think that's fair because, I mean, we've toyed with it, and we probably will not necessarily go on ghost hunts, but do kind of you go to somewhere and talk about it.
Yeah,
basically.
like, I love historic tours with a ghost
the folklore
story.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Exactly, that kind of thing.
But we were thinking about going up to Carrick, getting some of the equipment mobile. And, like, in the graveyard, just maybe chatting about what the history of it.
Yeah.
Because that, again, that's a spooky little liminal spot, you know?
Yes.
But
so many stories.
the only time
now.
I've ever been there at night, there's been more spirits in me than have been around the place, you know? So.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, no, it is a mad thing, yeah. Like, I get what you say about the ghost hunt. When we went to Duncannon, after it, I was like, I don't really want to do this
because
again.
you're kind of feeding into it, and then as well,
and you're creating a mass loop which could cause it's not a ghost
you're
at all, it's just all your bullshit
more
together
stuff there that needs to be, like,
and
as well, people are coming, like, with all these different personalities, all these different baggages, and they really want to be in touch with someone. Maybe they lost someone and they're grieving, or like whatever it is, or they really want something to hear. And I just think all that energy, like, it's quite it's
an irresponsible use of it, I think. I think I know what you mean. I think it's fine to go on a ghost hunt and kind of see what the feeling is and all the rest of it, but we were a group of what, 20 people
into everyone, show yourself.
And it becomes a real bit of a charade, like the table tipping and all that, because there was, like, the
table tipping,
so
everyone puts their, like, finger, like, two fingers on the table, and they're, like, kind of antagonizing the spirit to move it.
But
and then, like, it just starts rolling around the room.
It starts popping up and down. And you could say, and that's what happened that night, you could say it's like the Ouija board. They call it idiomotor response. So, like, you're kind of sort of subconsciously moving, but you're not aware you're. Maybe, in a way, we're all doing that with the table, but the table is with, you know, half a dozen people with their it's bucking like a horse.
All right.
It went crazy, and we were down in one of the dungeons, like, or was it a prison
we were down
in
the dungeon at that
Duncannon Fort, isn't it? Right. So for our listeners,
there's, like, Nazis there and everything. So much history, like.
It's a big sort of concrete looking maze looking thing, almost. It's mad looking. It's actually really cool and worth seeing if anyone there is in Ireland. But so what was the story?
It was a really cool tour and everything, but I think when I started getting that, because I think I was a little bit sensitive. I kind of shut myself off a lot now. But to kind of hear someone say, like, stop, or, like, they don't want this. It's not fair.
No.
It was
you don't know what the crack is with it at all.
On the same Duncannon one, I remember I was, like, sitting in a chair, and I feel like I was just guessing stuff.
We were asking who's picking up on the story here, and Eamonn said the whole story.
I didn't mean to. I was just like, and then the guy, and he was sad from marriage, and then he toppled. But as I was saying it, I felt really fucked up afterwards. Like, I felt really shook, and, like,
100%.
I didn't feel good at all afterwards. But I was also, like, part of it was like, the skeptical part of me was being like, but you're probably just, you know, most of these ghost stories have a similar narrative, so maybe you just got lucky with your guesses. And then the other part is because everyone's egging you on, because there was another guy there, I remember, and he was just like, fucking, it was this guy, and he was just kept trying to get things, and I was just, I didn't know why, and I didn't feel like
that at all.
I didn't feel like I was tapped into it, nothing like that, but I was just, I was just saying, I could just tell the story without knowing the story, but I felt really weird after. I felt really sort of horrible afterwards.
Unaliving.
There you go. You're better than him.
She's way better than me. You got yourself a new co-host, buddy.
Ever comes on and he just drops
No
everything.
algorithm's going to shut you down.
I was only listening back to one of our episodes today. It was actually Monday's episode, and I was like, we literally managed to hit every controversial thing in one episode. In one episode, I was like, oh, amazing how we're able to do that. Like, you couldn't do it if you tried most of the time.
I wonder if you noticed the fluctuation.
You do, yeah. You do, because you do a thing where, like, so with the shorts on YouTube, it's just a little minute long clip, and you just throw up a couple of them, and like, some of them just will never get off the ground, and they'll get like fucking 10 views, but then others get like a couple of hundred or 1,000, and you're like, they like that one for whatever reason. But
like, even that, like the fact that you're allowed to say one word but not another word, but both words mean the same thing, but one word sensitive,
it's totally
it's total
stupid.
garbage.
It's total stupidity. It's just
say whatever I want. I'll say whatever I want. I'll never stop fighting for you, the American people.
No, you're saying like Zach Bagans.
Yeah.
Show yourself.
We had Emma from Real Ghost Stories on, and she was saying there's an episode. I was talking about how you used to really like watching all those ones.
Loved it.
And she was said there's an episode where he's like drink whiskey. The spirit's making me drink even more whiskey, and he just gets hammered on whiskey, and he's all like gets really boisterous or whatever. Rambunctious youth.
Do you consume any ghosty or paranormal stuff nowadays at all?
Yeah, so I have to say, like, going with kind of what I realised after the few ghost tours that we did, I was not interested in that at all. Amy Bruni's a great one.
Oh, okay. So
me and Ben started watching Amy Bruni last year.
Is it a TV show kind of thing?
Yeah, she used to be on Ghost Hunters.
Okay.
And then now she's kind of gone out on her own, and she does it with Adam Berry as well.
Okay.
I cannot remember what the show was called, but she has a book called like Life in the Afterlife,
right,
or whatever, and she does a podcast called Haunted Road.
Okay.
She is so interesting. Like, she does it in a really nice way, where like they have all their equipment and they're kind of just asking questions and picking up on some things, and then they'll go and they'll do their research, and they get the history, and they get names, and they find out who that actual person is.
Cool.
And it all connects. All the story connects. And they say, like, they don't believe in, like, go to the light. Like, you see, like, go towards that. She's like, you can't. She doesn't believe that that's actually a thing, or how to kind of move a spirit. It's like, you have to respect them as well, like, and they're in a space maybe that they've always been in.
And does she think it can be like more than one thing, or like because some people say it's like an echo of a time, and some say it's the spirit of someone who's passed, and then other people are like it's some sort of other energy thing. It's really interesting. She does. There's a few things that they pick up on, but they use Chip Coffey as a medium that they use. Who is
I
it?
don't know if you remember Chip Coffey.
Chip Coffey.
Yeah, he's really interesting.
Cool name.
But they used to be on. Do you remember Paranormal State? Did you ever watch that one?
I didn't. I'm actually, in terms of ghost stuff, I didn't watch many of the TV shows at all.
Yeah. No. Well, he was off that. Chip Coffey was, but they're just so interesting, and it's a way nicer paranormal show, and it just kind of connects all the stories, and there's so much respect in it, and like the way they talk to the spirits and stuff, like if people are having problems with them in their home, and then they just talk and explain and kind of resolve, and then it's like they either go to the light or things settle down because they recognize their own space, and they kind of realize they're dead. Sometimes they might know they're dead and stuff.
That's true again. If you want to go back to Brother Richard, well, it won't be a spoiler really, but basically there is a part in the story where he has to say to this spirit, "You're dead."
Yes.
Like, do you not know what's going on here? You're dead. Fuck off.
Exactly.
I kind of wonder what that experience must be like to be the spirit who doesn't know it's dead. Like, it just seems so lame.
Yeah.
Like, if I just wake up one day and no one's talking to me, like either everyone hates me for no reason.
Be like, spoiler alert, The Sixth Sense.
I'm Bruce Willis. No, I'm dead. But it's like it is. I think of that sometimes. Like if you ever watch Insidious, the second one, they go into like the shadow zone.
So scary.
You have done your part to fight the Shadow Master. Now I must. But they go into the shadow realm, and it's like spirits who are just trying to attach to something living for like some sort of sensation, I suppose. But that's like that's just the way it's depicted, the darkness and these sort of really weird spirits. Like the bride obviously is terrifying.
Oh yeah, Insidious is creepy out.
Yeah.
Before we go on, have you got like, I suppose from the past, if you're not consuming it as much, top like 3 spooky films for Halloween?
Yeah, well, like I have to say, I think like I'm going back years. Obviously, I'm in my late 30s. All the new movies, I'm like, I don't know if I can watch them, but I'll watch my comfort ones, which is Trick or Treat for Halloween.
Trick or
is a great one.
I've talked about how it's like the Pulp Fiction of horror. It's the best Halloween movie.
So good,
so good.
Dead End.
I haven't seen Dead End.
Is that the one in the car?
That's a classic, yeah.
Yeah, man, these are all the ones I would have picked. Anna's class.
I grew up.
I'm pretty sure we watched these together for the first time. Yeah,
and we probably went through. Yeah, this is number 1. This is number 2.
I showed the guys Dead End. I was like, "This is a really good movie. It's like low budget, blah blah blah." I showed them in Canada, and they were like, "Sure, that doesn't make sense." I was like, "No, but it's like no. I mean, like, it kind of does." But sure. Are they just on the road or what? Like, how are they even getting in the car? Like,
they're just like driving around.
Dead End is that.
I don't think I've seen it.
Dead End is quality. Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it on you if you haven't seen it. Yeah. It's now it is like, it is an old one, and it was low budget. Like
it had a different name, I believe. Originally, it had a different name. There was something to do with like it wasn't going to be Dead End. They were going to release it, and they weren't going to release it. It's like one of those stories.
Yeah.
But basically, shoestring budget movie effect. I'll tell you what it is, right? All those stories that work really well, they play out like a kind of a 1950s Twilight Zone where they don't need a lot of stuff.
No.
It's like the scenario is you're in a car together, go make something scary.
And it could have even been in black and white.
Yeah,
and you would have totally just fell in love with it.
But the characters and the interaction, like the acting isn't always 100%, but that has to be strong because otherwise it's just two people in a car talking, So I agree.
Good. So good. So those two, and then there's so many horror movies I love, but I have to say like The Shining is one of my favorites, and I really want to go to that Stanley Hotel.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
Did you see Dr. Sleep?
Yes.
What did you think?
Spooky.
Yeah, it's totally different.
I need to watch that. Yeah, I didn't even realize that was
more hits you because like there's kids involved.
Yeah,
that is like
that must
hits home.
That's the thing, and that's why I was asking you about that, because a lot of our listeners do have kids, so it's like I wonder, because your perspective is kind of shifted on paranormal stuff after having kids. I wonder is it the same for our listeners, and I'm sure we'll get people writing in that.
But some things just stay with you longer, or hit you harder. Like I would have rather not have that feeling.
But I know the exact scene you're talking about, and like even the way you're like, wow, they fucking put that on film. Like it's tough, but it's also done in a way that isn't egregious. Like it's a real fine line of it. It's Mike Flanagan, so
he's brilliant.
Yeah, he's fantastic at that.
It the Clown is like that for the kids. Like that even me watching that, like you're like, oh wow, this is like.
You're right. I haven't seen the new one.
It's good.
Oh, the new chapter 2. You mean
the new it?
Oh, the first part.
Oh, it's good. You should watch that. You should watch that.
The first one, especially, like the second, there's like it's.
Oh no! Wait, I haven't seen. What's the newer one that came out?
Chapter 2.
Oh, okay, that's.
I know they're making a TV show, Welcome to Derry or something. Welcome to Derry. But I think it's Welcome to Derry or Maine or something. Welcome to Derry's way better. Yeah, just make an Irish shit. Are you Catholic or Protestant, laddie? And he has like a green and white makeup.
Oh my god! Well, this is funny. Can I say like one more?
You can absolutely. You say whatever you like. You say whatever you like.
So have you ever heard of Duckett's Grove?
No.
It's supposed to be this big haunted house out in Carlow.
Oh, okay.
And it was on like Ghost Hunters International. Barry Fitzgerald or whatever was his name, runs that. And so they've done ghost tours of it and stuff. And I always just say to Ben, I really want to go to Duckett's Grove. So last weekend we went to Carlow for the night, and then we went to Duckett's Grove to do a tour the next day.
Cool.
Not ghosty at all.
Nice.
The guy was from Derry.
Okay.
And obviously Duckett's Grove was owned by a big rich family, and it was over the famine years, and then it was an IRA headquarters and everything.
Okay.
And oh my god, he was the best tour guide. I completely got into like, thank God I'm not English, or like,
we do have a lot of English.
Sorry.
I can't condone what my sister says.
Maybe you don't want to do this tour. You might not want to do this tour, but no, like it was very good. Like the owners of the house, in fairness, they were very good during the famine times, because they had so much land. They hired so many.
They were like
workers.
the nice Nazis, like putting the spoon all the way down into the soup to get the peas into it.
Well, no, they like Carlo has the lowest amount of people who died during the famine, because
really?
There was these two very rich families.
They were like magnanimous.
They all worked for, and then they were well taken care of.
Yeah.
So when the IRA came to burn all these big old buildings down, the community kind of begged them not to.
All the Tigers were like, don't do it.
But like no one lived, it was abandoned. No one lived in that house. But they just said, please don't burn it down, because they were actually quite good to the people. You know,
I was often curious about that. I was like, surely not every sort of planted landlord could have, you know, but I'd never heard a story like in Ireland where, and I knew
that's
it
why
must
it was
exist.
So interesting. Yeah. And like he has it from his perspective, but he was saying like, you know, I had Cork people here and they think they're the rebels. Come to Derry. Like. Yeah, it's very funny.
There's one of them up in
Londonderry, I believe it's called.
I would love you to say that. Oh,
sorry, I believe you've mispronounced it. Londonderry.
I knew it say delirious.
The big red head hair. I mean, I went to a Protestant school. It's actually Londonderry. I'm a settled Fenian.
There's one of them up in, is it Clare, I think, or Mayo? One of them, Clare, I think. But I don't know if you've ever seen it online. There's like an aerial shot of this big mansion, and it's all woods all around it, and it's just cool. like all you can see is just this big mansion. But same thing, got burned down by Republicans around the same time. Like they torched it, so the roof is gone and stuff, but it's still there. It is actually super spooky as well. Like, but it's this big, massive building. It's probably about the same size as Loftus Hall, maybe. Yeah. But just gutted, like completely gutted.
Well, didn't you, for your wedding, you went to like a haunted, like her wedding pictures Castle. Are like
spooky wedding.
Her wedding pictures are the cover of like a horror. Like,
you know, it was Halloween, so there's pumpkins everywhere. It was deadly.
It was cool, yeah.
So that was burnt down, by the IRA.
Yeah.
But they rebuilt it, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's very nice.
But there's loads of spooky stories of, you know, the coachman. Coachman's taken to death or whatever.
But, so you know, like
and the
most
banshee,
places, the banshee was there. Yeah. Do you know most places have the thing?
The hound, the black hound.
The black hound.
They had everything.
But do you know the way you usually get the pamphlet? And it's like, we met in blah blah. Their pamphlet was like, you open it and it just tells you the ghost stories of the castle. You know, you're like, you thought COVID was scary, you know, just when you thought it was safe to breathe the air.
It's like, welcome to the dark side.
Yeah, but that was because it was like a small amount of people, because it was a COVID wedding.
50 people.
Oh, class. That's what you want, though.
Yeah,
it was really,
it was
really cool.
House, you know, but that was the budget of 100 people.
Yeah,
to be fair.
Yeah.
And so the place in Carlow is Duckett's
Grove.
And how do you spell it? Like
Duckett's.
Okay, Duckett's Grove.
I'm pretty sure they were a French family.
Oh, okay, cool. You know? Right. Yeah.
But really interesting, and that wasn't burnt down by the RA because the community begged them. Mm-hmm. They made it into their headquarters.
All right, well,
and it was only burned down afterwards because they say it could have been for insurance purposes.
That's classic. Was it? No, would that have been the Protestants or the Catholics?
And that would have been whoever owned the land at the time. You know, it got transferred to family, to other people. So.
Money doesn't know any religion or denomination, only its own.
You know what you're saying about the roof taking off? So the roof was taken off this one as well, and he said because back in the 1920s or 30s maybe, if you didn't have a roof, you didn't have to pay these really high taxes.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
So the roof was removed first, and then it might have been.
There's still places like that where if it looks as if it's under construction. If you go out to Greece, you'll see rebar coming off all the roofs, so they're like flat topped, and there's rebar because if your house is still technically under construction, you don't pay tax on it till it's finished construction. So you just have these houses that because the rebar is coming up, it's sort of indefinitely under construction, and you don't have to pay property tax. You have a shitty looking roof, like aside from that, it's grand, you know.
Can you believe we've been talking for an hour and 15
Like
minutes,
old
Anna?
times.
Huh? Good old chat.
I didn't bore anybody.
No,
today.
that was great, man. That was great.
I think
I feel
everyone
like
will
you
love
could talk for another hour about
Yeah.
like specific ghosts, because you didn't even that field you were talking about. There's a whole bit about people on pilgrimages crawling
they
through the
crawl
land and
through
stuff.
on their
There's
knees, and it's a
yeah. I haven't thought of a lot of these stories in many years, so
Yes.
that's pretty good. Yeah.
Maybe next Halloween we'll have you back for more spooky stories.
yes.
I think that'd
Yes.
be cool.
We'll
Yeah.
have to do your ghost story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
I'd
to-
say our listeners are fed up listening to our. They're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you saw a shadow person."
Yeah.
I don't care. But next time you come back, we'll get you the white and green. We'll do like Rob will do like the red and white. And we'll get them all together.
We'll get that popping. All right then, ladies and gentlemen, we will leave it there. The one, the only, Mrs. Anna O Neill. Ah, woo!